Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Hey, everybody out there in podcast land, it's your old buddy Lionel Strang, and you're asking yourself, what do we podcast today? What's happening on the old podcast today? Well, as you can probably already tell, it's me by myself doing an introduction to a podcast. I'm useless at doing this by myself. I'm absolutely useless at doing this by myself. So let's keep it short. On this particular podcast, we have the Kelly Questions with Kaylee Zhang, the founder and the creator of the Zanger, which of course is an offshoot of the original Broomfield. We can't ever forget the Broomfield and where our roots. We can't forget our roots of the Broomfield. And then we have a segment that I found that was originally intended to be on Virtual Hobby Shop, but it's Shawn Becher, and he's talking with Tony and me and Bruce Kelly, I believe, and we're just talking about stuff. So I'll have to leave it up to you to decide and listen to that one. And that's it. That's the entire introduction of an episode of the Kelly Questions, 38 quality minutes with the one and only Shawn Becher. And that's it. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to go away. I'm going to start the podcast. Subway chime, go! There, I've hit the button. I hit the button. It's another segment of the Virtual Hobby Shop right here on the air on the AML network. And in this particular segment, there's me and two co-hosts, or three co-hosts. And there's me, Lionel, the evil overlord. There's Bruce Kelly, the creator of the Kelly Questions, the number one super fan, and the president of every model railroad club within 102 miles of Medford, Oregon.
Hello.
And then we have, this is cool, we have Tony Cook, who is the editor of Model Railroad News, the creator of HO Scale Collector Quarterly, an associate editor on Railroad Model Craftsman, the guy that does the product news on AML. He has a dog named Bandit. He drives a Continental, Lincoln Continental, and he starred in the Gene Hackman hit French Connection.
1971. Let's see. I was 5 years old.
Wow. So yeah.
Well, see, I was in the seat with Hackman when he's going through but I'm little, so you can't see me. But I was right there with Popeye Doyle in the squad car.
Exactly. And tonight we're going to talk to Shawn Becher. Is it Becher? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
You're very close. It's Becher.
Becher.
Yes.
I think most of the time I say it wrong then, don't
I? Most everybody says it wrong, so that's quite all right.
It doesn't really...
I said it right in Model Railroad News, though, didn't I?
Yeah.
Good point.
See? There you go, Lionel. And that's one of those easy things about print is, I looked at it too thinking, is it Becher? Is it Becher? But all I had to do was just get the letters there.
Okay, so here's my... I get it.
You had to say it.
Yeah, you had to say it. Yeah, I had to say it. But you had to say it while you were spelling it.
That's true, but I'm only here in the room by myself, so I didn't embarrass myself in front of legions of podcast listeners, yeah.
Do you ever remember that guy, the comedian David? He was Canadian. He was from Winnipeg. He was very popular in the 80s, and he had this bit where there were two unimaginary little men sitting on either shoulder. And he'd go, "Get off!" Man, now I'm way out there. David, what's his name? He was from Winnipeg. Somebody will be knowing. You know what I always think? When I'm screaming out questions and I don't know the answers and nobody else knows the answers, I know there's somebody out there screaming whatever they're listening to, their phone or their car or their earphones or whatever. They're screaming the answer, frustrated that we don't know it.
And the person like going around them in the fast lane. What is this idiot doing going 45 miles an hour screaming at himself in the car by? And holds up his phone and takes a picture. Like,
Exactly.
I think I just did that with one of the podcasts a week or two ago, but I don't remember which one it was now.
So, Shawn, the reason we have you on the virtual hobby shop, you are a test case. You are a you're a test tube case. You are a pure. You are like we jammed you in a test tube, and we're testing this theory out.
It must be an awfully big test tube.
Yeah. How big of a man are you?
Well, I'm only 5'8".
Yeah, so it's a medium-sized test tube.
Okay. All right.
So here's the problem: we have so many people to talk to. And you've been such an active part of the podcast for the last year and a half, posting and all that stuff. And I thought I wanted to talk to you. So then I thought, rather than have you on a full interview right off the bat, we'll plug you into one of these virtual hobby shop segments, and then we won't have to wait forever and ever to hear you. And then there'll be somebody else I can check off the list.
There we go.
So go ahead, tell us about yourself.
Wow, so, doesn't like being put on the spot.
Yeah. So, how did you discover the podcast?
Well, one of my coworkers always listens to podcasts while he drives around, and it's something I had never ever explored. And then I thought, well, geez, I wonder if there's any model railroad ones. And I did a search, and right away it popped up with a Modeler's Life, Model Railcast, Model Rail Radio. And, so I grabbed a couple of the AML podcasts and was hooked right away and had to go back to the beginning and download them all and basically binged listened to all of them over the course of probably 2 to 3 months while I was driving around between stops at work.
And what do you do for a living? Because every time I try to get you on the podcast, you always get an emergency call.
Okay, so I am a field service technician for the company that is contracted by the Wisconsin Lottery to do all of the installation, maintenance, and removals on all of the state's lottery terminals and associated satellite and cellular communication systems.
Oh, that's all. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you figure there are 12 of us for the entire state, and we are managing about 4,500 terminals, it gets to be a lot some days.
Yeah, because you're always on an emergency call. So what happens? Somebody's terminal craps out, and you have to go fix it.
Yeah, pretty much.
And a lot of the times is you drive the 45 minutes or hour and 15 minutes, and you get to the call when you're off duty, but you're on call, and you get there and you go, well, you turned it off.
Yes. There are lots of them where you show up and you're like, oh, well, hey, it's not working because this is unplugged. And you're like, oh, really? Yes, I just drove 2 hours to plug your terminal back in. It's working now. Have a nice day. I'm going to drive 2 hours home now.
Yeah, wow. But sometimes they really... So whereabouts do you live, roughly?
I live in Oconomowoc.
Oconomowoc, which is...
halfway between Milwaukee and Madison.
Yes, Marty McGurk at one point in his life lived in Oconomowoc.
Yes, it's funny that you bring up Marty McGurk because we have the, Carolina Southern layout that he did for Model Railroader is actually in our museum's possession.
Okay. 2 questions popped into my head.
Okay.
One thought. And guys, feel free to jump in at any time, as always. The first thought was, it's funny when you said it's funny. I mentioned Marty McGurk. Marty McGurk is always funny.
Okay.
No matter how you cut it, Marty McGurk is just a great guy. Actually, Marty is just a great guy, great personality. So it's always funny when you mention Marty McGurk. And the other thing was, don't tell me, let me guess. Oh yeah. So the Carolina Southern, and then you work in this museum, or you volunteer for this museum.
Yes.
In Oconomowoc.
Yes. It's the Oconomowoc Area Historical Society Museum. And I've been living here for about 5 years now. And 5 years before that, I lived in this town for almost 10 years and had never gone to the museum. I had heard that there was a layout in the museum, but I never ever made time to go to it because I never knew where it was. When my youngest daughter was in 3rd grade, they were going on a field trip to the museum, and she asked me if I would chaperone. And I did. And I was just like all the rest of the kids, because when you walk in through the entry part of the museum and you get to the ramp that goes down to the museum floor, the first thing you see off to the right is the model railroad. And we were all glued to the railing on the side of the ramp, all like, ooh.
Right.
And so, of course, we all had to go all the way around the museum. And when we got to the layout, I started talking to the gentleman who was running the trains. And, we kind of conversed a little bit in the free time and exchanged emails. And about a month later, I had Mondays off from my job, so I was able to go into one of their work sessions. And I've been with them ever since. So it's been about 4 years now, I believe.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And do they take members and stuff? No.
Yeah, we take extra helpers when we can. We try not to get too big of a group, because otherwise we all end up in each other's way during the work sessions.
So it's not it's not a club per se. It's a historical museum.
Yes, but we consider our group to be a club.
Okay, you just need to be careful when you're talking in front of Bruce. How about
I think he's far enough away that we're safe.
See, that's like Batman saying in Gotham that I've got the Joker under control.
This is very true.
And then the Joker, at the end of the thing, the Joker's gone, and then halfway through the next season, it's the Joker again.
Right.
You want to be very, very careful with that kind of talk.
Yeah. Yes, this is we're an unofficial club. We don't have a president.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's an opening.
Well,
you're gonna have a president soon.
Yeah. Have to increase the distance.
It's more everything's done by committee. We all sit down together and say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do the other thing, and this is how much money we have left. And everybody's like, okay.
Right. Okay. So how many guys are there?
On any given Monday, it can be anywhere from 5 up to 12.
Okay. And how big is the layout?
The layout is 21 by 32.
Oh, wow. So it's a big...
Yes. Basically, the way it came about, there was a gentleman named Don Stewart who lived here in Oconomowoc. He was a Chicago Northwestern modeler. And from like mid-1940s up until his passing in the early 70s, he built this railroad. And then after he passed, it sat in his basement for 20 years and nobody did anything with it. At that time, the museum was housed in the upstairs of the old library, and the Army National Guard had built themselves a new building. So the city bought the old armory building, and that's where the museum moved. And when they did, they had a lot more space, so they needed more exhibits, and Don's widow offered to lay out to the museum if they could figure out how to get it there.
So the layout that is there now has its roots in like the 1940s or 50s?
There are parts of that layout that are incredibly old, yes.
Wow.
That's something.
A lot of all of the track work has been redone because, well, hand-laid brass is kind of high maintenance.
Yeah.
So, in fact, we just ripped up the last of the old hand-laid brass a month or two ago because we finally got the outside operating portion of the layout to the point where it's good, and now we're working on the inside portion of the layout, and we're going to make that fully operational so that we can use that when we do our operating sessions.
So outside, as in like under the stars outside?
No. The original layout was like an oval that was operated from the inside. And then once it got to the museum and they got it running again, then the museum board was like, okay, this is great, but there's no Oconomowoc content. So then they expanded the layout to include Oconomowoc. And so then you had like an inner loop and an outer loop. And then we actually added on one of the other club members was moving from a house to a condo. So he donated his entire railroad, and we added that to it. And the funny part was he was also a Chicago Northwestern modeler, but we're trying to model like Milwaukee Road stuff. So we got that all up and running, and now we're going back to the inner loop, and we're remodeling that so that we can actually use it instead of it just being a static display in the middle.
Right. So there must be a lot of unique problems dealing with layouts. Like how old is the second layout that was donated?
It was a lot newer.
Like,
it was a lot newer. I don't know the specifics on when Harry started building his layout, but it was all done with L girders, and it was more modern construction methods, whereas Don's stuff was more almost like model railroading on a budget.
Okay.
Because we actually took a Sawzall and cut out 1/2 of the entire inner loop because there was no structural integrity to it. And they're like, if we're building a new yard on this, we need it to be solid and level. And this is just all pieced together from what looks like scraps.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah. So those are some of the challenges we're facing. Plus, the wiring is like spaghetti.
That was going to be my next question. Was electrical? It must be.
Yeah. A lot of it is getting completely rewired, just so that we can make heads or tails of it. And even with the newer section of the layout, there's been a couple of times where you're like, okay, this isn't working. Why? And then you start crawling around under the table, and well, what are these wires supposed to connect to?
All right.
So the electrical has not been the easiest. Thankfully, we have a couple of electrical gurus who have been able to figure most of it out.
And what kind of operating like electrical control system are you using?
We are running an MRC Prodigy Elite.
Okay, what is that one? Somebody remind me. Is that DCC or just DC or?
No, that's DCC.
Tony, it seems to me you talked about Prodigy Elite at some point in your life.
We've reviewed them before, and MRC's done some. I think they have like a Wi-Fi thing for maybe some wireless stuff now. But yeah, the Prodigy, it's been around a long time. Isn't that kind of T-shaped, Shawn? Hand controller? Am I thinking right? With all the text on the back.
It does have a bunch of text on the back. I wouldn't really call it T-shaped. It's almost more like the shape of a flattened railroad spike.
Oh,
but
okay.
it's got the big single speed knob on the front of it, and then all the buttons are either gray or blue.
It kind of looks like the NCE throttle.
Yeah, except you'd replace the scroll wheel with an actual knob.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
A nice big knob that's probably about 2 inches in diameter. It's not tiny.
Yeah, right. It's yeah, but it's kind of it has the same look as the
right.
NCE one.
I believe so. Yes.
I think it came in, and NCE, of course, was originally Wangro, and I guess they were all on MRC. Came out sometime during the early days with Prodigy Elite or whatever they call it. Prodigy Elite, is it? Did you say?
Yeah, the one we have is the Prodigy Elite. I think it's a step up from the original Prodigy.
Yeah, and does it work pretty good?
It does. We did run into an interesting issue where, because of where the command station is placed, the radio antenna is only on like a 6-inch lead. And if you ended up on the far end of the layout, you had to hold the remote all the way up in the air in order for your train to respond to it.
Right.
And so I creatively stuck a piece of network cable in there with a junction block and moved the radio antenna closer to the middle of the layout. And now there's no more lag when you're trying to drive your trains.
Oh, cool. And so all your trains have, your whole layout's DCC then?
Almost. We have a couple of what we call shuttle lines that don't intersect with anything else that are DC with auto-reversing circuits. So, like one of them, we have an RDC that runs between 3 stations. And so it's got the photo sensors at each station.
Right.
So it'll stop at one end, reverse direction, stop at the station in the middle, continue on to the station at the other end, stop, and then reverse direction back the other way and repeat the process indefinitely.
That's kind of cool.
We've got 2, we'll have 3 of those when we finish our rebuild of the inside portion of the layout.
So the whole thing has been an experience and a half, kind of rebuilding the layout.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you must have some kind of you seem like you're the thing that caught my eye the most, and when I started wanting to talk to you, was you posted a picture at some point somewhere of you were rebuilding a travel trailer, a camper trailer.
Yes.
The inside of it, and I thought, well, that looks really cool. The guy's built. So you must be pretty handy with you must have some skills yourself.
I prefer to think of myself as a jack of all, master of none.
Okay. All right. Well, we can do that. That's the way I think of this podcast. It would be really good, almost.
Right. Yeah. No. The camper was quite the experience.
Yeah.
It was one of those of we had done some camping last year, and the straw that really kind of broke the camel's back was when my wife and I went on a one-night trip with our tent, and we got rained on that night.
Right.
And we stayed dry because it was a pretty new tent, but the thing that really sucked was then it was pack everything up when it's wet, so you get all wet doing that. And then when you get home, you have to set everything back up so it dries out, so it doesn't get moldy or musty or stinky or any of that stuff.
Right.
And we ended up finding that trailer on Facebook Marketplace and went and took a look at it and noticed that there was water damage in the back of it. And they said, "Oh, no, it's all sealed up. It's all sealed up.
Yeah.
Just replace these panels, whatever." Okay, fine. So we bought it. We brought it home. I started working on it. I ran into one problem, which in trying to fix ran into another problem. In trying to fix that, I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to have to pull this panel down even though I'm not ready to replace it yet. And then I did, and I saw the wood underneath, and I said, you might want to insert the goal horn.
Yeah. And away you went.
Yeah. Then it was like, well, I guess if I'm just going to start ripping stuff out, I'm just going to rip it out. And I had the entire rear 6 feet of that trailer was ripped right down to the skin.
Wow. And
had to reframe it and everything.
Huh. And so, but now you've probably got yourself a pretty nice travel trailer.
Yeah. Yeah, we've taken it out once already this year. Had a slight issue with the air conditioner not working when it was like 1 billion degrees over Father's Day weekend.
Yeah.
Turns out the thermostat went bad. That's fixed. So when we go on our next trip in 2 weeks, we'll have air conditioning.
Yeah. So if it gets to 1 billion degrees +1, you'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. The next question I want to see now. I don't think this is working, Tony.
Why not? Well, I was just thinking.
What?
Now that he's got this camper RV thing all put together, we ought to all take it out on some kind of road trip. Yeah. I mean, I think he's got the bugs worked out. So I was waiting for you to step in there and ask, would you like to, volunteer to?
Yeah.
The new AML party bus.
There you go. Yeah. How big of a trailer is it?
It is 29 feet and sleeps 8.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Done.
Bring it down to Rochelle.
Bring it to Rochelle, Illinois.
Oh, I would, except I'm not bringing my truck because it's a gas hog. I'm actually going to be bringing my wife's car.
Oh, okay. You're coming?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
After I missed it last year, I'm like, no, I'm not missing it this year.
Well, okay. It's going to be a good time, and we managed to talk Ostertag out of pre-cooking the burgers, so
thank goodness.
We're in good shape there.
If he pre-cooked the burgers, we'd have to slap shot him at him like hockey pucks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he claims they're pretty good. I think they're pretty good. I got a feeling they're pretty good, but I just wasn't in the mood, and nobody else was, so there you go. And I was concerned that he'd go to a lot of work, and we have no idea how many people are going to show up. Like, I'm pretty confident we're going to have a decent crowd, but it's not, there's no registration or nothing, so it's kind of like whoever shows. So I didn't want him to go to a lot of work, and then there'd be a lot of, he cooked too many burgers and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So, Tony and Bruce, the thing I don't like about this is this interview feels like speed dating.
How is that?
Well, like we already been talking for 24 minutes, and I said like 30, 35 minutes, and I haven't even got to the part asking him about writing the review for MRN yet, Model Railroad News.
Exactly. Yeah, we got to talk about that. That was in the March issue, the March 2018 issue.
Yeah, I know. So
that is such an awesome looking that it was not the first responders.
No, it was the first responders.
It was the first responders, yeah. And it's that with the red front. I love the gold fans and roof details. Yes. Really stand out on that, yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
except for that one grab iron behind the rear fan that they, for whatever reason, painted black. It's supposed to be gold.
Ah, so he turned out. Did he turn out to be a very stellar reviewer?
Oh, it was an excellent review. Yeah, I thought it looked great, and he talked about he did the decoder install, which was awesome because that's something we get asked about a lot. Is okay, well, what would you suggest, or what did you have to do? And yeah, it turned out really good.
Cool. And are you running them anywhere, Shawn? Or?
Well, I actually have used it on my layout, even though it's like Back to the Future, since my layout's 1902, and that's obviously not. But I've been having some issues with my steam locomotive, and the power pickup's not real good. So anytime I've been trying to move stuff around or test it or even just play with it, I've been using the Jeep 38. I did take it to the museum to show it off, and I also 3-4 times a year operate at another layout here in town, which you guys may have seen. It's featured in Model Railroaders Rehab My Railroad videos. It's Chuck Sable's Chicago Northwestern Lines Wisconsin Division layout. And
what was the video again?
The Rehab My Railroad video series.
I don't know. What is that about?
It's something
I
Model
vaguely,
Railroader did.
Yeah, I vaguely remember now. It's something where they go in and they make a better model, like they revamp or refurbish.
Right. Yes. Yeah, so they were helping him redo some trees in one spot, and they did operating crossing gates in another spot, and redid a road in another spot. And but yeah, I took it over there for one of the operating sessions, and at the very tail end of the operating session, they let me throw it on and take it around for a lap, and as soon as they hit the ignition sequence, everybody was like, "Ooh, what's that?"
And what is the ignition sequence?
Well, there's I used a TCS wow sound decoder.
Okay.
And so there's a specific button you hit where it actually does the engine startup sequence. So you hear some clicking and some clunking, and then the engine fires up. And
oh, cool.
Yeah.
And so, why did you pick the TCS wow sound decoder? Any particular reason?
Well, I had a probably 20-minute phone conversation with Shane the Young Gun about what he would recommend. And then I went to my local hobby shop, Hiawatha Hobbies in Pewaukee, Wisconsin, and said, "Hey, Glenn, do you have this? Do you have the ESU?" No, I'm all sold out of those. Do you have the Tsunami 2? Nope, I'm all set out of those. I'm like, dang it. Okay, do you have this TCS one? Yeah, I got that. All right, I'll take that.
Okay. And so are you pretty happy with it, or?
I am. I have noticed, what Shane had said about occasionally the sounds kind of clip.
Right.
Like if you're blowing the horn, as soon as you let go of the button, the sound just cuts off. You don't have any sort of like an echo trail at the end of it. It just kind of cuts off. And while it is slightly annoying, I find the other features of the decoder to be completely worth it.
Okay. And are the other features of the TCS Wow Sound decoder, do they have features that these other decoders don't, or? I don't like this. You know what? I don't like this speed dating thing at all. I just don't. I'm looking at the clock tick down here, and we're at 30 minutes, and I'm asking him questions, and I'm trying to, like, every time he says something, I got another I don't like this at all. But how else are we going to end up talking to the 15,000 people that we have to talk to?
Well, but you're not bound by time. This isn't like network television or something where we got to be out of here by the top of the hour. So.
Well, it is kind of. See, we got to get it more organized, or else the whole podcast is just going to turn into it's going to become like a bad NHL team with mismanagement. And it's like, this is a rebuilding year. Okay, well, this is like the 15th rebuilding year we've had. So it's like. I wanted to talk to Shawn, and I honestly, when I sat down here, I started thinking to myself, well, if he's really interested, we'll keep going. And then I'm saying to myself, no, you want to talk to Shawn and put him in the next virtual hobby shop, because that'll be interesting to have somebody, that we've heard about but we haven't talked to. And if I do more than 35 or 40 minutes, then the virtual hobby shop gets too long. And it's just, the whole thing is a debacle. I should never have started this podcast. Now here I am. Now I am talking to a guy in a Oconomowoc that I'm rudely going to cut off in a minute. It's just
I was going to say, Lionel, we haven't even gotten to the fact. This was this not? I think the locomotive that you and I talked about getting one of the podcasts or the AML people, to say they wanted to review it. That's how.
Yeah, I know.
Set up. Yeah,
I know.
We never really haven't talked about that. That we sent this sample out to him because he responded first on it and had good ideas on what he wanted to do. And now Shawn's we're working up. We got a Milwaukee Jeep 9 project and
two Milwaukee Jeep 9s.
Yeah,
and a Milwaukee U25B, which will hopefully all end up at the museum.
Yeah.
All right. So you know what we're going to do here. Here's what we're going to do.
Part 2.
This is the way this is going to shake out.
70-part series.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to do a second part that will end up somewhere else. And I actually have an idea where it's going to end up, because we are talking right now. We are talking on the Sunday before the barbecue. Mm. So this particular version of Virtual Hobby Shop will come out after the barbecue. But we're going to do a show for the free channel on the Thursday before the barbecue, because I thought it would be fun for everybody to have something to listen to on the way to the barbecue. But then I thought, well, I don't really want to do more than 3 podcasts a week. So then I thought I'd put it out on the Patreon channel and the free channel at the same time. But now, what we're going to do is we're going to close this puppy down, and we'll do like a little short segment for the Patreon channel as well that will be released on Thursday, July the 19th. How about that?
Okay.
Sounds good.
You know who I was just talking to not an hour ago? Was Ken Patterson.
No way.
Wow.
No way.
No wonder you're so tired.
Yeah.
And slightly kind of disorganized here and frustrated.
No. Well, you know what? My wife, here's something that we can talk about too on the next segment. The second part of the 32-part Shawn Becher.
Becher.
Man. I'm going to just give you a blanket apology.
That's
Shawn,
quite all right.
Yeah. But I can verify that Tom Jacobs is building his layout in a 20 by 36 building.
Correct.
Somehow that has now managed to drill its way into my brain.
It only took like a year, right?
Yeah, like 2 years or 3. Like I am like the last guy that should be the host of a podcast, because it's like the problem is I've done the audio to a point where when you're listening to it driving along, it actually sounds like a real radio show.
Yes.
But the problem is it's one guy that really doesn't care that much. So when Tom tells me about his building, I'm like, I'm interested, but there's nobody writing down the size. So when I come around to ask him about it again, it's kind of like, what size was that again? So it's going to like Becher is going to be like, it's okay. That's going to be I know it's okay because it's my podcast. All right, so
you know what? I've had Becher, Belcher. Call me you can call me Steve. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da!
Well, that's like my name, Lionel Strang. I mean, when I was a kid, I always say, try walking around with the handle Lionel when you're 6 years old. That's a pleasant life, let me tell you. In grade 2, what's your name? Arnold? No, Mrs. Brown. It's Lionel. How do you say your last name? Strange? No, Strang. There's no E. Why isn't there an E on it? I don't know. I'm 7 years old. That's what my dad says. That's what my dad told me. It's like my mom and dad insisted this is the way it is. So it's like, I'm out of it. Take me out of the loop, Like, call my dad up and ask him. All right, that's it. We're going to close this puppy up. That's the end of this segment. And then we're also going to do, just so everybody knows, we're going to do Kelly questions. And we're going to do another segment that will be broadcast on the air on the Patreon channel on July 19th, 2018. And we're going to talk about Tony. We're going to talk about all the stuff that he's reviewing for Model Railroad News.
Excellent.
Sweet.
Very good.
Yeah. So now we're going to hear the clock tick. Have you guys heard of Virtual Hobby Shop yet?
Yes.
How do you like the clock ticking in the cow movie?
It's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like the segment stuff. It seems to move along faster.
I know, except I like talking to you guys. So
I would say maybe like once every 3 or 4 months you should still do the other format where you have like the hobby store banter, because that's also quite fun.
Yeah. Problem is, Shawn, you're brand new here, so you really don't get a vote.
I
know. Your opinion of really no.
This is part of the initiation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I fully expected that.
All right, Bruce, are you there? Bruce, wake up, Bruce.
Hello.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. What?
I've told you. How many times have I told you? If you're going to sleep on the couch, keep your head at the other end from the McGurk part.
Oh, was I in that again? Oh man, I got to fumigate my hair again.
Yeah. Hey, you know what we're going to do tonight?
It's pizza night, isn't it? Pizza movie night?
Yeah, pizza movie night. Or this afternoon if you're driving your car, or this morning, whatever it is, whatever time. If you're out there pounding those miles on the treadmill at the local Y, and it's 8. Oh, you know what? What if you're like Chris Adams and you're riding around on your bike at 6 a.m. in the morning in a July morning?
There you go.
He's one of those fit guys.
Yes.
Man, I'm telling you, it's like all right, that's great, Chris. I'm happy for you, but just quit posting it on Facebook. So, anyways, he's one of those fit guys. You know those guys.
Those fit guys.
Yeah, those fit guys.
That was a comedy, short-lived sitcom, was it? The Fit Guys.
Yeah, the Fit Guys. Yeah. So, anyways, it's Kelly questions, and we're gonna do them with Kaylee Zhang. Remember, we interviewed her.
Oh, Kaylee, the interesting one who makes magic with jet turbofan engines and sound out of little tiny speakers for model railroading, and has a layout and belongs to about 1,000 clubs, and a very interesting person.
Yes, that's a good point. She gets killer sound from teeny tiny speakers, and yet she gets huge thrust from giant jet engines. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Oh,
That's
might go with their background in engineering.
That's kind of one of those anomalies.
Yes.
All right, go get her out of the green room, and we'll do the Kelly question.
Oh, she's in the green room?
Yeah. She
How
never
long
left.
Has she been in there?
I think that's where she went. I think after we interviewed her, she took the wrong door and went back in.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay, let's go see if she's there. I'll knock first in case some.
Yeah, yeah.
Kelly? Oh.
Come in, I'm indecent.
Okay, come on. Well, your president's wanted on the studio.
All right. Where's my pants here? Hang on. Okay, here we go. All right, yeah, all right. Woo! Okay. Hi.
You
Hi,
kid.
guys.
You kids. All right, Kaylee. So I remember when we interviewed her a little while ago, some time ago, and we had all that fun talking about. Bruce and I made an observation. We made an observation that you get killer sound from teeny tiny cell phone speakers, and yet you work at a company and you're a mechanical engineer, and your main job is to learn how to make huge thrust out of giant turbine engines.
That's actually a really good observation.
Yeah. So some of the time you're working on teeny tiny stuff, and some of the time you're working on great big stuff.
Very big stuff, yeah.
Yeah, like you just don't seem to have any happy middle ground.
Well, let's go big or go home.
Yeah, exactly.
And then do something really small.
Yeah, go big, go home, and then do something really tiny. Exactly. So now we have this feature, this semi-regular feature called the Kelly Questions.
Uh-huh.
And the Kelly Questions were invented by our number one super fan, Bruce S. Kelly from Medford, Oregon. Or Oregon, I think is you're supposed to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it was his idea, and there are a series of questions that he's spent years and years in a tiny room coming up with that we ask model railroaders.
Okay.
And you being a model railroader, and
Yep.
This would be ideal for you.
Okay, fire away.
All right, you ready? Okay, here we go.
Fire away.
She doesn't sound real.
No, she doesn't. I'm
She
concerned.
sounds sort of tentative about
Very
this whole
hesitant. Yeah, I'm a little concerned.
deal.
You did stick me in the green room for a while, so
yeah, that's
break
true.
a little
Well,
fun.
to be fair, you got lots on your own.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, fair enough.
And
Well, hence why I'm pensive,
You know
because
what?
I can't. I'm thinking right.
you know what I think threw her off is when you put the tinfoil hat on her.
Oh, that's possible.
Yeah.
She's not sure what that's all about yet, but trust me, you'll need it.
Yeah.
And as a bonus, we'll both autograph it for you, so you can take it with you.
Yeah, it's a take home. Put it on eBay. Oh, that's the other thing I remember about Kelly. She's a close personal friend of Lou Pampanello, who was a winger for the New York Islanders from 97 to 08. And he played in about 285 NHL games and scored 102 goals.
Yes, that's right.
The other thing about Lou that most people don't know is he had 432 minutes in penalties.
Yeah, he was a bit of an enforcer.
Yeah, he was a tough guy. He could put what is it they say? He could put the egg in the basket. Because
yes.
But he could also hurt you while he was doing it.
That's right.
Well, you got the job done, though, right?
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Exactly. All right, Kelly. All right, Kaylee.
Kaylee, it's Kelly questions.
Can I call you Steve?
Sure.
Or I guess
Or would it be Stephanie?
Or would it be Sue? Can I call you Sue?
How about Shirley?
Yeah, all right, there you go.
There you go.
Which do you prefer, steam or diesel?
Diesel.
And any particular one?
A lot of the third generation locomotives, like SD60s, EMD mostly.
Okay, and like SD60 is
SDs.
And what about the new ones, like the new, more modern ones, like the Aces and all that stuff? Are you interested in that at all?
They're okay. I mean, for me, they just seem to be very angular, so it's kind of like, okay, where's the sleekness that came from the older classic EMDs?
Yes, exactly. So third generation would be the 60s, so second generation would be what, 20s to 40s maybe?
Yeah, like GP30s, SD40s, especially SD40-2s. Oh, there's a classic.
The SD40-2. We got a friend of ours who's a locomotive engineer in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Green Bay, Wisconsin, which of course is the home to Lambeau Field, the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. And he runs a GP38-2, quite a Grand Trunk one the last time I saw him.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And
Nice.
he's a cool guy. Anyways, all right. So you like ST60s? What's your favorite prototype railroad?
Conrail.
I like Conrail. You know what? If I was starting over again, I think I could see me modeling Conrail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when you think about it, how many government programs do you know that actually succeeded?
Yeah.
Ah.
There you go.
There's the rub.
And they weathered well. It's almost like whoever decided on the paint job thought, and this is model railroading, these will weather great. I mean the blue and the white, just you can really do some neat decent weathering on those Conrail locomotives. Mm-hmm. And you were saying in the interview that Conrail is mostly a run through railroad, but did it not do any? It must have done some switching.
It did some switching, but from where I grew up in Phillipsburg, it was pretty much a bridge traffic. So it brought traffic out west to the ports of New York, Newark, Jersey City.
Right. And it ran as far west as Chicago, did it not?
I believe so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. If you were rail fanning, would you rather photograph the trains or ride on them?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. We don't ask any questions that aren't good here.
Yeah, this is true. Touche.
Mm-hmm.
Probably photograph.
Okay. And any particular, just, do you use your cell phone camera? Do you use an SLR?
SLR.
Okay.
But the cell phone cameras, I call it my sidearm. Maybe it's a little too soon, but given their political climate here in the U.S.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it's my cell phone is my backup. But for the for a lot of the photography I do perform, it's all with my DSLR.
And what kind of camera do you have? DSLR?
Canon. Right now, I just have a T3. That's
cool. You can't go wrong with Canon.
You can't go wrong with Canon.
That was always my camera of choice. And when digital started, they had the best sensor of anybody in the business at the start.
Yep.
What was your first model train?
First model train was Santa Fe F Unit War Bonnet.
I think everybody had one of those.
I think so, because they were so ubiquitous. I mean, they were everywhere. You could go to any of the toy stores. Even my local grocery store had a toy section, which had model railroading stuff. And the war bonnets were, F-unit war bonnets were just abound everywhere.
Exactly. Bruce, can you help me out here?
Yes.
Ubiquitous?
Yes.
More than 2 syllables.
Oh, sorry. Everywhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's kind
which is also kind of more than 2 syllables, but it's shorter.
Yeah, exactly. And I can break it up into 2 different words and stick them together. Problem here, you got to remember here, Kaylee, on the old AML network is I only have a vocabulary of about 27 words, and none of them are ubiquitous.
Green eggs and ham, got it.
What's your favorite model railroad scale?
HO.
HO. Okay, you hesitated there.
Well, it's followed by a close second with probably I would have to say O scale.
Yes, O scale.
Only because you could cram so much detail in such a relatively small scenery.
Right. So you're building a layout in your house, an 8x10, kind of like a shelf layout. Is it HO or O scale?
HO.
Okay, but if you had the opportunity, you'd do O scale.
I would consider it.
Okay. What about S scale? Would you ever consider S scale?
It's crossed my mind because it's like a hybrid, but the only problem with S scale is that there's just not too many products available.
No, exactly.
And even from a scratch building standpoint, there really isn't a whole lot available, especially since I do a lot of modern railroading.
Exactly. Okay. What era will your layout be set in?
Today.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, so your favorite scale is HO. It's followed closely with a close second by O scale. True or false? Is N scale dead?
False.
Okay.
I know I have so many friends who are N scalers. It's not even funny.
Okay, I don't think it is as dead so much as it's just lost in the hobby.
Even then, I would have kind of begged to differ, quite honestly.
All right, cool. All right, I think that's a good answer, hey, Bruce?
It's a wonderful answer.
Exactly. What is your favorite model railroad?
Like a model or
Just
brand or
no? You're like your favorite model railroad, like to go visit, or one you've seen in the magazines, or one you've heard about.
Well, Chris Adams' layout is always fun to visit and operate on, so that's always high up there.
Right.
As far if we include layouts I want to visit, Miniature Wonderland
In Germany?
Germany. Mm-hmm.
Yes, everybody says that's quite the thing.
Yeah, and actually, there's so many of these. I won't say knockoffs, but variations coming all over the country.
Yes,
There's a new one coming out in the States, in New York City, in Times Square's, I think, Gulliver's Gates.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very similar idea to that.
Yeah, there's all kinds of people. I don't think a lot of these people that start building these monster layouts, I don't know if they realize what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah. Well, I think at that point it's just more of a showpiece than it is a layout in that sense.
It's done as a business. The guys
Right.
in Germany, I think they were nightclub owners before they ever started building the model railroad, and I think they did it more. I don't think they ever did it with the thought that it would ever be this successful. So you would say Chris Adams' layout is one of your favorite model railroads?
Mm-hmm.
And now when you're over there operating, is he like on an exercise bicycle riding
Well, how do you think the layout's powered?
There you go. Who is the most influential model railroader for you?
Influential model railroader. I think everyone.
Oh, that's a cool answer. We've never had that one before, Bruce.
That's a first timer.
Yeah, because when I think about it, I never really learned any one particular thing from one particular person. It was a mixture of, a little bit of this person, a little bit of that person, a little bit of my own experimentation. But I think everyone in my interactions with people in the hobby only made me grow as a modeler.
That's a very good answer. It might be too good for this show. That's a really good answer, eh, Bruce?
That is a great answer.
Yeah, everyone. I like that. The most influential model railroader for you is everyone.
Right. I mean, I remember reading Model Railroader when I was younger, and especially focusing in on your section, Lionel.
Cool.
Working on railroads. So
Hey,
there you go.
There's a good answer.
Yeah, exactly. Guess what? Kaylee just became my favorite all-time interviewee.
The score's going to be scores are going to be astronomical.
Yeah. At least from one of the judges.
Yes, I think both judges agree on that one.
Okay, select one of the following as your favorite: bench work, track work, scenery, or electrical.
electrical,
Yes.
then bench work, track work, and then scenery probably last.
Yeah, let me reread the question for you because maybe you didn't hear me. Select one of the following as your favorite.
Okay.
Bench work, track work, scenery, or electrical.
Electrical.
All right. So now when you're working at, what's your club in New Haven called?
New Haven Society of Model Engineers.
And so are you kind of the electronic guru at that club, or one of them?
Between me and Lou, yes.
Okay, so you and Lou have a lot in common then. Other than just
Right.
model railroading, you are also interested in the same aspects.
Pretty much, yes. We're both engineers, so I guess it comes with the territory.
So after he retired from the NHL, he became an engineer.
Yep. Guess those bashing around didn't destroy those brain cells after all.
No, exactly. So what kind of engineer is Lou?
I know he has an electrical background. I think he also has like a industrial mechanical.
Right. Okay. And so what kind of DCC system are you using on the New Haven Model Railway Society, whatever it's called?
The New Haven Club?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. There we're using Digitrax. only because we were early adopters of the technology, and at the time, Digitrax was one of our better options.
Okay. Okay, so the club was one of the earliest users of a DCC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you guys are doing sound and everything. How big is the layout that the club's building?
The club is building a layout that's roughly 30 by 45, 25 to 45. 25 by 40-ish.
Okay, so a good size.
Right, double-decked.
Double-decked?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Holy mackerel. And what kind of progress have they made on it so far?
We got the main line on the lower level done. The helix is built.
Wow.
So yeah, we're chipping away at it. We're slowly adding scenery. Not so much. We're building a lot of buildings. The scenery is slowly kind of coming away, being chipped away at. But for the most part, we wanted to try to get the railroad functional, verified, functional, before we really glue anything down.
Yeah, right. And are you guys pretty organized? Like everybody's pulling in the same direction?
Pretty much. I think we kind of go through the same issues that a lot of club has, where we have a lot of members, but not a whole lot of people working on it. So it's a lot easier to kind of set standards and make sure it's adhered to. Okay.
All right, cool. If you could give somebody in the hobby that was starting out in the hobby, just one item and cost was no object, what would it be?
I could give someone who's just starting out in the hobby and cost is no object. What would it be? Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Well, as we mentioned earlier, we only ask good questions here.
Yeah. Wow. Let's see. What would it be? I'm assuming it has to be physical, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay. If not necessarily, then I would say imagination.
Yeah, maybe it should be physical.
Okay. Paper and pencil.
Paper and pencil. Because
I think all good ideas, whether it's model railroading, engineering, art, it all started with paper and pencil. It really started with someone just saying, I'm bored. Let me sketch something. Next thing you know,
that's another
genius is born.
Yeah, that's another good answer, eh, Bruce?
Indeed.
Yeah, it's not as good as
I'm scratching with my paper and pencil right now, making copious scoring notes.
Yeah, exactly, and it's not as good as reading my stuff in Model Railroader, but it's still a good answer.
Well, of course not.
Yeah, exactly. Where do you?
That's a high that's going to be hard to live up to.
Yeah, it is actually. Where do you buy? This is a good question for you. Where do you buy most of your model railroad supplies?
So for me, I get a lot of my supplies from Tom's Trains of Connecticut. It's the hobby store that I occasionally, quote unquote, work out of.
Right. That's in Wethersfield. 925. 925 Silas. How do you say that? Silas Dean Highway, Wethersfield.
Yep.
Open Wednesday through Saturday from 11 till 6.
Yep.
And they do a lot of online stuff, and so it's how are they doing in the world now of competing with online stuff? Are they able to succeed and carry on?
Yeah, I mean, Tom, the owner, is a friend of mine, so the bulk of his business is actually online. The storefront carries a little bit. It has a pretty significant stock,
right?
But most of his business income comes from his online presence.
Okay, so it's a good, solid little store in some sort of a plaza, and you work in there helping with the electrical, like people's locomotives and things like that, and
right.
Okay, you must find that enjoyable doing that, eh?
Yep.
Cool.
It's what's financing the hobby.
Oh, is it really? Excellent. What's your favorite train event of the year, model or prototype?
Model or prototype? It, I think, has to be the prototype meets.
The RPM meet.
The RPM meets.
Have you ever been to one other than the one in the Northeastern RPM?
Yeah. I pretty much go to a lot of the ones on the East Coast. So the one in New England is my home base, more or less.
Right.
And then every other year there's the Valley Forge one, which actually this year I was there.
Okay, what's that one like? Because I've never been to that one.
It's pretty much like your typical RPM, but it's different. It's more special because I think it's every other year, so you don't get to see the same faces every
12
year.
months.
You see them,
Right.
exactly. You see them every 24.
And does that seem like it helps it be a little bit more sustainable because it's not every year, it's every other year?
I think people are driven by their passion to go, whether or not it's every year or every other year.
Right.
So I think that question is kind of a moot point. Good point.
Right.
But
not,
I think I don't think it's applicable because, we're here. A lot of people that do attend are passionate about the hobby. And for some people, this is the only time they get to see their friends they may have met online on Facebook in flesh.
Yes, that's a big thing now. That's another thing that we kind of were starting to work our way towards in your interview. Is like the hobby's so, like I'm convinced that the internet is bringing the hobby to life, to changing it. And that's the thing, so many times, like you'll meet people at some sort of event that you've known for a year or 2 years just online. And as my friend Andy Dorsch would say, doing it that way, the first date jitters are gone, and you're just like, hey, how you doing? And yet you've never met the person in the flesh, and yet away you go.
Mm-hmm.
I had that experience at Springfield. I met a fellow named Robert Freshella, who's a friend of another friend of mine, Mike Ostertag, who's basically just a useless lump of poop on the face of the planet. That's not true. He's the guy that is the locomotive engineer in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So he's a pretty cool guy.
Okay. He's the guy.
Yeah.
We like that.
Yeah, exactly. And, but yeah, I never met Robert. I talked to him once on the phone when I was talking to Mike, and we conversed a bit. And he was it was easy to start talking to him. Which reminds me, it's another guy we should interview, Bruce, because he helped design a whole yard. And there are too many people. This podcast was a huge mistake, Kaylee. I should never have started it because there's too many people to talk to. Okay, next question. Do you prefer regular beer or light beer?
Regular beer or light beer? Probably light beer.
Okay, any particular kind?
Blue Moon.
Blue Moon over Kentucky? I've never heard of Blue Moon. I've never heard of Blue Moon.
It's actually a Belgian ale.
Ah, look at you.
So.
Being all European.
Oui.
Do you prefer salty or sweet?
Salty.
Dogs or cats?
Cats.
Do you have one?
No. Sadly, I'm actually allergic to them. I know. Irony, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I like cats, but they make me sneeze.
Yeah. I think that's the new catchphrase of the AML network. I like cats, but they make me sneeze. They clog up my nose. They give me a goad in the nose. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke. I used to be a Pepsi fan, but then Coke, there's more flavor and it's not just sugar.
Favorite?
Uh-oh. Was that a point deduction there?
Ooh, yeah, that's you'll find out.
Yeah, we really, unfortunately, we really can't discuss the points during the competition.
Yeah.
We're not at liberty to. We'd love to, but we're just not at liberty to. Favorite hot dog condiment or condiments?
Does bacon count?
Yeah. Does it ever?
Yeah. well, yeah.
Yeah.
The points just went up again.
That might be one of the best answers we ever. Does bacon count? Do fish need water? I mean, does a human need oxygen? Does bacon count? Oh my goodness.
Oh, jeez.
Have you ever been bungee jumping?
No, I have not. Do I want to try? Hell no.
Yeah, exactly. You want to get thrown off a bridge on a string? No, thanks.
No, thanks. I'll pass.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And you know what's going to happen in the next 10 to 15 years is we're going to start hearing all these medical reports about people with bad backs because they were bungee jumping. Oh, really? No kidding.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. What do you know? If you were a beer can, what size would you be?
If I was a beer can, what size would I be?
I asked you first.
Just no, there was an echo in the room.
No, okay.
Just a regular beer can.
Okay, just regular size.
Regular size.
Doing your job.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. How many pairs of shoes do you have?
Where do I count? I think the more appropriate question is, do I have more shoes or locomotives?
Okay. How many locomotives do you have?
About a dozen.
And they range from, what's your favorite locomotive that you own? Your scale locomotive.
Favorite one right now probably has to be my SD60s.
Okay. And who made those?
Athens Genesis.
Okay. And have you bought any of the scaletrains.com? I don't think scaletrains.com makes an SD60 yet.
No, they have a 40-2 that I kind of have my eyes on. So.
All right. Okay. And who would be your favorite locomotive manufacturer? Would it be Athens Genesis or?
Yep. Athens.
Okay. What's your favorite pair of shoes?
Favorite pair of shoes? Probably got to be my the boots that I have.
All right. Are they made for walking?
Only one way to find out.
Nancy Sinatra. How many times have you solved a Rubik's Cube?
0.
There you go.
I can't solve it for beans.
Well, there you go. That makes me feel better. That makes me feel more like I got a chance. If you were a superhero, what sort of powers would you have?
I was probably teleportation.
Teleportation?
Mm-hmm. Just kind of poof, here I am. Poof, I'm on.
So you could kind of teleport. Would you have a restriction on how much time backwards or forwards you could go? Or would it just be in the present? You could go from the Springfield show in the Better Living Center till you could go over to the Mallory building.
Yeah, probably in the present. Time travel? Nah.
Okay, I like that. That's good. It's logical, makes sense, and you're not wasting anybody's time.
Exactly.
All right. What do you think your costume would look like?
Probably no different than normal clothes.
Really? But
yeah.
But underneath,
maybe not.
But underneath, you'd have like a spandex onesie or something.
Shh. That's a secret.
With a cape. And it'd be
capes are overrated. I think they're bulky in this net.
Capes are overrated. I like that. Have you ever had a brush with the law?
Nope. Can't say I have.
Are you boring?
Or maybe I should say I plead the fifth.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Well, we try to, by the next time we interview, try to get yourself involved with some sort of, it doesn't have to be big, but just at least something where a cop comes up to you and goes, come on, move along. We don't need any of this here.
Work on that.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've done it too much. Have you ever been on TV?
Yes, I have. Sort of. Documentary count?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So that you were talking about the movie Model Citizens?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And how long?
Being part of that.
How long were you on for?
I actually never timed it.
Okay. So,
I know it was a good portion, but
because you've watched it 103 times.
Yeah. I plead the fifth.
And I had a really good point about that. Model Citizens. Oh yes, you can rent it on Amazon to watch.
Yep, absolutely. And if you have Prime membership, it is available for free. If not, I think it's like $5 or something.
So it's
something cheap.
So it's easy to watch.
Yep, absolutely.
Have you? Oh, who's your best friend?
Best friend is probably would have to be Lou. Actually, it's a pair. So it's Lou and his wife.
Okay, so the Pampanellos?
Yep.
I got it right. Does his wife know that he used to play in the NHL?
I don't know. That's a good question. I have never asked.
All right. Well, yeah. That's
Well,
they're never.
There's.
Yeah. Before they're not going to hear this interview, and the next time you see him, you can walk up to him and go, Lou, you've been holding out on me. You never told me you played for the Islanders. What's your favorite zoo animal?
I hate zoos.
That's great.
Actually,
that's great. But what's your favorite zoo animal?
Let me rephrase. I like animals. They're tasty.
So that'd be Black Angus.
Yeah. No. Probably a pandas.
Okay. Well, exactly. That's a good answer.
A panda or close tie penguins.
Penguins and pandas. So primarily, you like the animals that are black and white.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much you're pretty much down to you're okay at the zoo so long as the animals are all black and white.
Yes.
All right. Do you prefer baseball or hockey?
Hockey over baseball.
Okay. Yeah. If you could only choose one professional sports team to root for, would it be the Detroit Tigers or the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Maple Leafs.
Good answer. That's a great answer. Okay, now it comes a really tough question. If you were stranded on a deserted island with just one person, would you prefer it to be Bruce the mail boy or Lionel the half-witted, dim-witted brother?
If I was stranded on an island, gonna have to say probably the brother. Someone's got to look out after him.
Yeah, exactly. And there's your final question, and it's a tough one. What's your favorite podcast?
AML, of course.
Excellent. Very well done. Well, Bruce, we're
ciphering here.
Yeah, we've come to that time in the show when things are kind of important, and we can't really.
Well, I think we both agree massive points for plugging working on the railroad.
Yeah.
But then again, some of our other answers drove those down a tad, the Coke versus Pepsi thing.
Yeah.
But a slight recovery with does bacon count?
Yeah.
And then it was kind of average performance since then. So all things considered, I'll give her a slightly above average 3.713.
Wow. 3.7.
I know, eh?
That's nice.
So working on the railroad one dragged it up there, eh?
Yeah, exactly. It really went up there. Okay, well, here's where I was at. When she insisted that N scale was doing so well, like for me, right out of the box, she was behind the 8 ball. She was like behind right away. And then when I had to repeat the bench work, track work, scenery, or electrical,
yes,
I stumbled over that one. And then, but she was able to say that she's just a regular size beer can, which I thought was a tip of the hat to all beer cans everywhere.
Yes, all beer cans matter.
Yeah, exactly. And then, all beer cans matter. Exactly. And then, of course, you can't ignore the working on the. I think, in fairness to Kaylee, she's the first person that went right to working on the railroad.
Oh yeah, I believe so, and that's why the score is going to be abnormally high. I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's for the first time that 7 years of toil and sweat finally paid off. And then when we got to the bacon on the hot dog, man, oh man, that was something.
Like gold, Jerry.
Yeah, but Coke over Pepsi, my goodness gracious. So anyways, I added it all up, and then she stumbled on the zoo, black and white zoo animals. I didn't quite get that.
Well, emperor penguins have orange.
Okay, that's true. And then when I said, who's your best friend, she had to pick. She couldn't narrow it down to beyond 2 people. She had to go with a couple. So that was good. So after all that,
she did pick you for the desert island.
Yeah, so I gave her a lot of bonus points, which really helped her score. So it's not usually my way, but I'm gonna have to come in at 6.13.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, you that's one of the higher scores we've ever had.
It is.
Yeah, I'm speechless. To be present at this moment just makes me.
It's like history has been made on AML videos.
It's like you were outside and you just happened to be there when the comment went by.
Yeah.
And you were looking in that direction and you got full view of it. You know, it's just for the next few days you're just kind of speechless that you were there in that moment of humanity. So that's it, Kaylee. That's the Kelly questions.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And as we said, we'll autograph the tinfoil hat and you can take it with you.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Awesome.
Yeah, you might want to pass that on to Lou.
Okay.
And tell Lou he was one of the best at putting the egg in the basket, but man, if he could have just kept his stick on the ice a bit more, there was...
I will do that.
All right, I think that's it. Oh, Bruce, can you give out our email address?
Our email address, if you're interested in this new internet fad thing, our email address is Modeler's Life, modelers with one L, modeler'slife@gmail.com.
Yeah, and you can check out our website at modeler'slife.com, and you'll just have so much fun over there, you won't ever turn off your computer.
That's right.
All right, I think that's it. I think we're done. Kaylee, thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see if
And when you're going down the hall, make sure you go left instead of right, and you don't get back into the green room again.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And we'll see if we can get somebody to drive you home in the AML mobile. But you probably have to just sit on the outside because we don't have any. We only got one seat inside. So.
Okay. So I guess with the one seat, I don't have to worry about the McGurk spot.
No, exactly.
Got it. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I think that's it. All right. Well, I'm turning the lights off. Everybody can leave now.
All right.
Alrighty.
And good luck with your guitar playing on the House of the Rising Sun.
Thanks. There's your outro music.
Well, I'd have to say that went pretty well, all in all. So just a couple of orders of business to clear up, a couple of things to do, and I'm going to get out of here so you don't have to listen to me talking by myself anymore. We had a live stream there a little while ago, and if you haven't seen it, and I'm not sure why you'd want to see it, other than everybody says that they had fun watching it, so we'll go with that. It's on our YouTube channel, and our YouTube channel is A Modeler's Life. Plus, I think what we're going to do, right now my plan is for the next live stream, we're going to have Scott Thornton, who is the creator of the Proto Throttle, along with the guys over there, Michael Peterson and Nathan Holmes at Iowa Scaled Engineering. We'll try to have Scott on here, and you'll be able to ask him questions. It'd be kind of cool if this live stream thing ended up where different guests on, and you could ask them questions directly. Interactive with Lionel. There, that's something I bet you they didn't expect when they invented the internet. Interaction with Lionel. Not everything works out the way it's planned. All right, so we're going to do that, live streaming, and then we have Chris Atkins, who, of course, lives in Argyle, Texas, the home of the Fighting Sox. He started a page on Facebook called Fans of the AML, so if you want to look for that, I'm going to try to put a link on the website. I may or may not have done that by now. And tomorrow, January the 15th, on the Patreon channel, where you got to pay a couple of bucks every month to listen to some more podcasts. On the Patreon channel tomorrow is going to be Viewer Posts Vacation Cruise number 27. I kept doing those because I just did. I just kept doing them, and because I enjoy them. I enjoy that kind of stuff. All right, that's it. We're going to stop now because, as we can tell, I am no good at doing this without somebody to talk to. We are finished. Say hi to when you get home. Give the wife a little peck on the cheek. Maybe stop home and get some burgers. For those of you in the Northeast, or for those of you in the North side, on the colder side of North America, get the Barbie out. Maybe have a little barbecue with the kids. Put on your shorts. See if you can withstand really cold winter temperatures. Actually, in Canada, they do that. In Canada, half the fun is seeing guys in shorts in the middle of winter. Well, I shouldn't say anything. I was shoveling my driveway a couple of weeks ago in shorts. So there you go. All right, that's it. Too much talking. Too much talking. We have a website, amodeler'slife.com. If you go there, you're going to find links to all our Facebook stuff, our Patreon stuff. We have an email address, modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers with one L, like railroad, not two L's, like Cadillac. That's it. I'm out of here. And remember, a modeler's life is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10 video technicians.
It's another Lincoln Homer.